Sarah Jenkins stood at the kitchen window of their Seattle home, watching rain streak down the glass as Michael's voice droned from the living room. Sighing, she had spent another evening invisible at his company dinner party, listening to him tell their guests how she filled her days with shopping and yoga classes. Her fingers traced the condensation on the window, forming patterns like the architectural sketches hidden in her studio upstairs. For 7 years, she had endured his casual cruelty, the way he introduced her as just my wife, with a dismissive wave, as if she were furniture that came with the house. Tonight had been worse than usual. Michael had laughed loudly when his colleague asked if Sarah had any interest. Mocking laughter. "Oh, Sarah doesn't trouble herself with anything too complicated," he had said. "She's perfectly content being Mrs. Hayes." What Michael didn't know was that under the name S.J. Morrison, Sarah had revolutionized sustainable architecture. Her designs had won international acclaim, transforming skylines in 3 countries. Her latest project, a carbon-neutral complex for underprivileged communities, had attracted attention from the world's most powerful development firms. She heard Michael climbing the stairs, his footsteps heavy with the scotch he'd consumed, satisfied humming. Sarah turned from the window, her decision crystallizing like ice. The call from Chicago had come yesterday. The Harrison-Blackwell merger meeting, the same meeting Michael had been nervously preparing for all week. "Pack something nice," Michael had said that morning. "You'll come to Chicago with me, show you off a bit. Maybe you'll finally see what real success looks like." Condescending chuckle. Sarah had smiled quietly, knowing the Harrison-Blackwell executives had specifically requested S.J. Morrison's presence. They wanted the architect behind the Morrison method to consult on their landmark sustainable tower project. The irony was exquisite. Michael stumbled into the bedroom, already loosening his tie. "Another boring evening done," he muttered. "Tomorrow we leave early. The Chicago meeting could change everything for me." "For us," Sarah corrected softly. Michael barely glanced at her. "Sure, whatever. Just don't embarrass me in front of these people. They're real players, not like your book club friends." Dismissive laugh. Sarah folded her hands, watching her husband collapse onto the bed fully clothed. This meeting would indeed change everything. Just not in the way Michael imagined. She thought of Ethan Blackwell, the CEO, whose emails had been increasingly personal, his appreciation for her work evident in every word. Tomorrow the world would shift. The flight to Chicago felt longer than usual as Sarah sat beside Michael in first class, watching him rehearse his presentation, muttering nervously. He had barely acknowledged her presence, except to criticize her choice of blazer. "Too formal," he had said. "You're not attending the actual meeting." Sarah adjusted her leather portfolio containing documents that would shatter his delusions. Inside were contracts bearing her real name, awards from the International Architecture Foundation, and correspondence with Ethan Blackwell himself. The weight of 7 years of silence pressed against her chest. Michael ordered his third drink before noon, gulping loudly. "This merger is my ticket to the executive floor," he boasted. "The Harrison-Blackwell people are desperate for fresh ideas. I've got proposals that will blow them away." Sarah knew the truth. Harrison-Blackwell had rejected Michael's department 3 times in 2 years. They weren't meeting with him at all. The invitation had come through different channels entirely. Channels that led directly to S.J. Morrison. She remembered the first time she had hidden her work from Michael. It started innocently enough, a freelance project while he was traveling. But his reaction to her mentioning architecture school had been so belittling, so casually cruel, mocking laughter, that she learned to separate her 2 lives completely. The educational truth emerged clearly through Sarah's experience. When we diminish others to elevate ourselves, we build our success on foundations of sand. Michael's need to feel superior had blinded him to reality. His wife's accomplishments threatened the fragile ego he constructed through put-downs and dismissal. At the hotel, Michael barely waited for her to unpack. "I'm meeting some junior associates for drinks. Stay here, order room service. Try not to bother me tonight." Dismissive tone. Sarah watched him leave, then opened her laptop. An email from Ethan Blackwell waited, looking forward to finally meeting the genius behind the Morrison method. Tomorrow will be unforgettable. She had seen his photo during video conferences, but meeting in person felt different. His messages had evolved from professional admiration to something warmer. He asked about her inspirations, her dreams, the philosophy behind her sustainable designs. He listened in ways Michael never had. Sarah selected her outfit for tomorrow, a tailored charcoal suit that commanded respect, her portfolio, her credentials, her truth. Michael returned late, stumbling, bragging about connections he'd made. Tomorrow's going to be legendary, he slurred. You just smile and look pretty. That's all you're good for anyway, cruel laughing. Sarah said nothing. Her silence had always been mistaken for weakness. Tomorrow it would be revealed as strategy, as patience, as power. Morning came with crystalline clarity. Part 3. The Revelation. The Harrison Blackwell building towered above Chicago's financial district, its glass facade reflecting morning sun like a promise. Sarah walked beside Michael through the marble lobby, watching him puff his chest importantly, breathing heavily with anticipation. Just wait in the reception area, Michael instructed, straightening his tie. This is way above your understanding. These men don't have time for pausing distractions. Sarah nodded quietly, following him into the elevator. Her heart hammered against her ribs, not from fear but from anticipation. 7 years of diminishment were about to end in the most public way imaginable. The elevator opened onto the 42nd floor, where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city. Michael approached the receptionist, announced himself, speaking loudly, and was directed to conference room NA. Sarah moved to follow. Michael turned, blocking her path. I said, wait here, irritated. Why don't you go find a coffee shop? Mr. Hayes, the receptionist, interrupted. Miss Jenkins is expected in the meeting. She's on Mr. Blackwell's personal guest list. Michael's face contorted with confusion, stammering. There must be some mistake. My wife isn't. The conference room doors opened and Ethan Blackwell emerged, tall, with striking features and eyes that found Sarah immediately. His smile transformed his entire presence. Warmly. Miss Jenkins, welcome. We've been waiting for you. The educational lesson crystallized in this moment. Those who build others up create lasting legacies, while those who tear others down construct their own destruction. Michael's years of belittlement hadn't stopped Sarah's growth. They had only delayed his reckoning with reality. Sarah extended her hand professionally. Mr. Blackwell, it's wonderful to finally meet in person. Michael stood frozen, mouth agape, his confusion turning to panic. Wait, what is happening here? Ethan's handshake lingered, warmth spreading from his touch. Your Morrison method has revolutionized our entire approach to sustainable development. The board has been eagerly anticipating your consultation. Morrison, Michael repeated, voice rising. That's her middle name. What is going on? Sarah turned to her husband, meeting his eyes with steady calm. I'm S.J. Morrison Michael. I have been for 7 years. While you told everyone I did nothing, I was designing award-winning, sustainable architecture across 3 continents. The color drained from Michael's face, gasping. Ethan gestured toward the conference room. Shall we? The team is assembled. Sarah, may I call you? Sarah, please, she replied. Michael grabbed her arm desperately. You can't just... Actually, Mr. Hayes, Ethan's voice cooled considerably. Your firm wasn't invited to this meeting. Your wife was. We've been communicating with Miss Jenkins directly for 6 months. Through the glass walls, Sarah could see 12 executives rising from their seats as she approached, men and women who controlled billions in development capital, standing in respect. Heavy hitters, Michael had called them, people he'd claimed were beyond her understanding. Now they waited for her. Sarah entered the conference room as 12 of the most powerful figures in architecture and development rose to their feet, murmuring with admiration. Michael trailed behind her, his face cycling through shades of red and white, as reality crashed over him like a tidal wave. Ms. Jenkins, Thomas Harrison himself extended his hand. Your vertical garden integration system changed everything we thought possible about urban sustainability. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Sarah replied, her voice steady and confident, the version of herself she had hidden for years, emerging fully into the light. I believe green spaces aren't luxuries but necessities for human well-being. Michael slumped into a chair near the door, breathing shakily, his usual bravado evaporating as executives who wouldn't return his emails now hung on his wife's every word. The Harrison-Blackwell merger centered on a 50-story mixed-use tower, and they wanted Sarah's expertise exclusively. Ethan Blackwell moved to stand beside her, his presence both professional and unmistakably personal. "We've reviewed your portfolio for the Chicago project," he said, "but I'm particularly moved by your work in Detroit, the community housing complex that runs on renewable energy." Sarah felt warmth rise in her chest, speaking with someone who truly understood her vision. "That project taught me architecture isn't about monuments to ego. It's about serving people, creating spaces where lives flourish." The educational truth emerged powerfully here. True success isn't measured by how small we make others feel, but by how much we elevate entire communities. Michael had spent years trying to diminish Sarah to feel important, while she had been genuinely changing lives through her work. Michael finally found his voice, croaking, "Sarah, why didn't you tell me?" She turned to face him, her expression neither angry nor sad, just resolved. "Because you never asked, Michael. You never wondered what I did with my days. You decided I was nothing, and that decision made you comfortable." "I didn't mean," Ethan interrupted gently. "Perhaps this conversation should happen privately. Mr. Hayes, you're welcome to wait outside." "No," Sarah said firmly. "He needs to hear this. Michael, you taught me an important lesson. When someone shows you they don't value you, believe them. I believed you. So I stopped trying to earn respect I couldn't receive. Instead, I found people who recognized my worth." Ethan's eyes met hers with unmistakable admiration, "And we're profoundly grateful you did." The meeting continued for 3 hours, Sarah presenting her vision for sustainable urban development that prioritized marginalized communities. Every executive engaged deeply, asking thoughtful questions, treating her ideas with the reverence they deserved. Michael sat silent, staring blankly, watching his wife command a room he couldn't even access on his own merit. When they finally broke for lunch, Ethan touched Sarah's elbow lightly. "Would you join me? There's a terrace upstairs. Private. We could discuss the timeline." Sarah glanced at Michael, who looked broken small in his expensive suit, deflated by truth. "Of course," she told Ethan. Part 5. The New Beginning. The rooftop terrace offered stunning views of Lake Michigan, but Sarah found herself more captivated by Ethan's presence as they sat across from each other, speaking softly. The professional boundary they'd maintained through emails and video calls felt thinner now, charged with possibility. "I have a confession," Ethan began. "I've admired your work for 2 years, but these past 6 months learning who you are beyond the blueprints," pausing Sarah, "you're extraordinary." She felt tears threaten, eyes glistening, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming experience of being truly seen. "For so long, I believed Michael's version of me, worthless, simple, ornamental." "You're none of those things," Ethan said firmly. "You're brilliant, compassionate, visionary. Everything I've read in your project notes the way you prioritize human dignity over profit margins, the way you see potential where others see problems. That's who you are." The educational culmination arrived clearly here. Self-worth cannot be given or taken by others. It must be claimed from within. Sarah had allowed Michael's cruelty to hide her light, but she had never let it extinguish the flame. She had continued building, creating, contributing, even without recognition. Below them through the glass, Sarah could see Michael being escorted out by security, his calls to her phone going unanswered. Their marriage had been over long before today, she realized. It ended the first time he laughed at her dreams. "I'm getting divorced," Sarah said the words, feeling like freedom. Ethan reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers, waiting for permission. "I shouldn't say this now, but I've been waiting months to meet you. Not S.J. Morrison, the architect. You, Sarah." She placed her hand in his, smiling genuinely, their fingers intertwining naturally. "Tell me, when this project is done, when you're ready, I'd like to take you to dinner. Not as colleagues, as two people who see each other clearly." Sarah felt something shift fundamentally inside her. The girl who had shrunk herself to fit Michael's narrow vision was gone. In her place stood a woman who knew her value, demanded respect, and was ready to embrace love built on mutual admiration. The Chicago Tower would be her masterpiece, a sustainable monument proving that success and social responsibility could coexist beautifully. Ethan had already asked her to lead 3 additional projects, Her firm, S.J. Morrison Associates, would officially launch next month. Yes, Sarah said to Ethan, to dinner, to partnership, to whatever comes next. They stood together overlooking the city, laughing softly as the sun painted the buildings gold. Michael's humiliation had freed her. His cruelty had taught her strength. His blindness had shown her the importance of seeing clearly. The educational lessons resonated powerfully. Those who diminish others reveal their own insecurity, not others' inadequacy. True partnership requires mutual respect, recognition, and celebration of each other's gifts. Sarah had spent years accepting crumbs when she deserved the feast. As Ethan walked her back inside, his hand resting gently on her lower back, Sarah realized she wasn't just leaving a bad marriage. She was stepping into her authentic power, surrounded by people who valued her contribution, partnering with a man who saw her completely. Michael had called her nothing, but nothing cannot design buildings that shelter thousands. Nothing cannot revolutionize sustainable architecture. Nothing cannot command the respect of industry titans. She was everything she had always been. Michael had simply been too small to see it. Now the whole world watched as Sarah Jenkins claimed her throne, and the powerful men who once would have dismissed her stood in awe, recognizing true brilliance when it finally stepped into the light, smiling triumphantly. The next chapter was hers to write, and it would be magnificent.